The historical, consumption for video has been, linear distribution, and I think what's happening in the world today is the change that we're trying to affect is that all of these other content sources are coming out there. If we fast forward 2015, there's going to be 500 billion hours of video, according to Intel. 500 billion hours of video out there. How does that get consumed? How do you create a user experience around that? How does the right content find the right person? How do you monetize the interaction that consumer has with that content? Those, I think, are the critical issues. The service provider and the media company have this issue of massive amount of content. They're going to be competing for the attention of the customer, of that end consumer. So the service provider, and this is very consistent with our videoscape strategy, the service provider obviously is trying to help aggregate all the different dimensions of the consumer experience: social networking, over-the-top video, linearly delivered video, user-generated content, your own stuff, and trying to create a user experience and allow customers to customize that experience in a way that makes sense for them. But the flip side of it is those media companies that are on the back end of it are frankly competing with each other and trying to figure out how to reach those customers, how to get the attention of the right customer segments. Because keep in mind, we see audience fragmentation as a fundamental change going on. So those media companies need to figure out ways to better monetize that over-the-top video experience. We characterize it as what we call the two-sided business model, which is the idea of the service provider sitting as a capability in the ecosystem that provides value to the media companies. And that could be through content delivery networks. That could be through their ability to provide a marketplace for that media content. It's their billion customer care operation, helping the media companies distinguish or differentiate their offerings. And then the flip side is what we call the B2C, which is the role that the service provider plays in creating a unique and differentiated experience for the end customer. That two-sided business model is the foundation, ultimately, of what we think is a general strategy for them to follow. It's not a question of being good or bad. It's a question of the fact that a lot of the business models that need to exist don't yet exist, and so that has to play out over time. It's not a question of being good or bad. I think they're very good at a lot of them are very good at delivering their content, but it's a question of creating the right business models. And I think what that means ultimately is where the sources of economics when you're an over-the-top player. How do you monetize? Is the old advertising models going to work? Are traditional subscription models going to work? And are they going to work in the context of the absolute flood of content that any individual user is going to see at any given point in time? For us, for Cisco broadly, I think we're literally trying to help define and ultimately participate in an ecosystem that creates market growth opportunities for all the players involved. And that's really the centrality of our videoscape strategy, which I think you've been exposed to. For IBSG, we see ourselves as a catalyst of industry change. These opportunities are out there. We have to work with service providers and media companies to help them figure out the right directions to go in and work with them to figure out what those steps are. And Cisco is able to then provide the capabilities behind that to help those customers actually achieve those objectives. So for us, it's really about changing business models, changing opportunities, and helping service providers and media companies capitalize on those. If they're successful, Cisco is successful.